why do Senate Democrats ignore the lack of laws requiring states to provide medical care to babies born alive during failed abortions? The answer is this. The left understands the danger of conservatives succeeding in what Robert P. George calls planting moral premises in the law. Now, Robert P. George is a Princeton University professor, natural law thinker, pro-life advocate, brilliant mind. He says planting moral premises in the law, whose logic demands in the end full respect for all members of the human family, can be a valuable thing to do, even where those premises seem modest. Yeah, it seems like a pretty modest premise, doesn't it? That babies who survive botched abortions and are already born ought not to be killed, and they ought to be given all the same level of medical attention and care as any other baby would be given. That seems like a pretty modest premise. But of course, all but 3 Senate Democrats voted against that anti-infanticide bill. You see, Senate Democrats are smart enough to realize that if they condemn infanticide right after the baby is born, it becomes morally untenable to suggest that the mother should still have the right to get an abortion seconds, minutes, hours, or a day before that baby is born. You see, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act might plant logical premises in the law that would eventually demand we respect the unborn child. In turn, abortion would be decreased and limited. Because if we know that they know that infants who are already born are human beings with human rights, then do we really think that they believe that the child right before mom pushes him out is not a human being with human rights? No, they obviously think that that's a human being. So they're granting that the unborn child is and can be a human being, but they don't care. And they are willing to condone infanticide. They're willing to allow that to operate to prevent those pesky pro-life Republicans from planting moral premises in the law that might lead to the slow but gradual protection of all unborn children, the slow but gradual curtailment of abortion rights, right? Because if you can get the American public on board with protecting infants who survive botched abortions, it's very easy to then say third trimester abortions are not permissible because that's obviously the same human being. Then it becomes very easy to continue to push back the right to abortion to earlier and earlier stages until it is abolished. However, this lie that not all humans are equally human and not all humans have human rights is extremely popular, right? For most pro-choicers, if you press them, they will admit that the unborn is human, but they don't believe they're fully human, whatever that means. And this is what's called the power of normalization, right? And Joseph Goebbels understood this, right? The Nazi propagandist for Adolf Hitler. He said that if you tell a lie big enough, but you keep repeating it over and over and over and over again, people will eventually come to believe it. You see 1984 and George Orwell dealing with this kind of idea, right? That it wasn't enough for us to repeat that 2 + 2 = 5. We actually had to believe it. That was the goal of the Big Brother state. It's not enough for people to just say that they're pro-choice. You actually have to believe that the unborn is not a full human being. So whether it's abortionists or the party of abortion, these individuals know fully well that unborn babies are human beings. So why don't they care enough to protect these children? Why? Well, I think the reasons will vary, right? I think for abortionists, it's largely psychological. Admitting the reality of what they do means facing the gruesome truth of themselves each morning, that they are a homicidal maniac. For parents who schedule their children's death, I think the reason is largely selfish. They know that these unborn children are human beings. That's why they have a sense of shame associated with going into an abortion clinic. That's why almost 75% of abortion appointments are canceled if there's Christians standing outside of abortion clinics, because the women who are going to the appointment to kill their child don't want to be seen by others going in. But would they care that they were seen by others going in if they were having a polyp or tumor removed? No, of course not. So deep down they know that this is a human being. But they believe that their quality of life matters more than the reality of their child's life. And for example, there was a pro-abortion singer just last month in January. Maybe you saw this story. Her name's Halsey, and she's a Planned Parenthood donor and singer. And she's pregnant. And guess what she called her unborn baby? A, quote, mini-human. And in a tweet, talking with her partner or boyfriend or whatever, she says that it's a mini-human that she already loves so much. Then why do you give money to an organization that's responsible for 30% of the murdered unborn children whose deaths you help sanction? right? Because that child was wanted. See, this is the irony of choice. And then for the Democratic Party, it's largely, I think, political and financial, why they're willing to acknowledge that the unborn is human, but not care enough to protect them. Because allowing access to abortion to be compromised risks their re-election and risks their massive campaign donations from abortion rights groups. Because if you can regulate abortion in the third trimester, you can regulate it in the second trimester by making the point that it's the same human being. It's just slightly smaller. Shouldn't we protect those children as well? They understand the danger of us planting moral premises in the law that will eventually protect all human life.